want to be more happy more of the time? Are you aware of the facets of empowerment which must be attained for their outcome to be your reality? Join host and gifted entrepreneur Randy Schrader as he guides you through a journey of self-discovery. Randy will empower you to learn new strategies designed to allow you to become your best and then make that better. So now, please welcome your host, Randy Schrader.
Hi, good evening. It is absolutely my joy and pleasure to be here with you. The name of our show is More Happy More of the Time, Lessons in Life and Leadership. And of course, last week was segment one. And in segment one, I described some of the goals and objectives and things that I have hope for over the course of the coming 52 weeks. And I was choosing topics for today as I contemplated again the thought, more happy more of the time. And there's a whole lot that adds up to that. But I chose today to start with a kind of content that may surprise some of you. And I'm going to start out in the very beginning. I'm going to start by asking you this question: where is your treasure? Where is your treasure? In the book of Matthew, it makes a statement. It says, where your treasure is, there shall your heart be also. And so the first question that I pose to you is, where is your treasure? Because that would have something, some indicator of what it would take to cause you to be more happy more of the time. And I just choose to be completely, totally self-disclosing and self-revealing in these segments. A bit warm, so I'll lose this. I choose to be totally self-disclosing and self-revealing, and I'm going to describe to you at least one of my treasures. I reach behind me, and it doesn't happen to be in a treasure chest right now. And I'm going to put all kinds of hedges and qualifiers on here, but here's my treasure. This is what sits in the center of my treasure chest. A part of my life experience is that I struggled mightily with drugs and alcohol for a long time. We talk about a concept of being more happy more of the time. I've become convinced that the life principles that are taught in the program of recovery, and I want to state in advance that I am not a spokesperson for any recovery program. I'm not in the business of recovery. I happen to be an individual who suffered under drug addiction and alcoholism for a long number of years, and I found a new life on the other end of a recovery program. In the years of my sobriety, I've become convinced that the principles that I was taught, which led me and countless others to recovery, are principles that would be beneficial to all people who want to be more happy more of the time. And so let us consider tonight's discussion to be more happy more of the time, a discussion and illustration of the 12-step program of recovery as it might appeal, as it might apply to those who are not addicted. Now, when I said who are not addicted, then I smile because why? Because almost everyone I know has some little bits of addiction in them someplace. In some cases, it begins to rule and then after that ruin lives, but almost everyone I know has some of the tendencies towards addiction in various parts of their lives. But we're going to call this the 12 steps of recovery as applied to the lives of those who are not addicted. Therefore, if you happen to be one who is in the program of recovery, I first would notify you that I am so consciously aware of the fact that we must always guard carefully the program and the fellowships that we're a part of. And once again, I do not position myself as a spokesperson of or an expert of or anything thereby. What I am is one who has recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body and have become completely convinced that those same things that I apply to my life as part of a recovery program would tend to make you more happy more of the time as well. And so I'm hoping that you'll find value here. I know that as I describe it, I will find value because, of course, as you know, I talk to me and I let you listen in an ongoing, never-ending quest to be more happy more of the time, to have fewer moments of conflict, to have fewer things that knock me off my bubble, that allow me to be operating and vibrating at my peak highest level more and more and more days. So in the foreword to the first edition, by the way, when I said, where's your treasure? I'll just tell a little bit of a story. In 1935, a gentleman named Bill Wilson started contemplating the idea of a recovery program, and in 1939 was the primary author of a book called Alcoholics Anonymous. And in the foreword to the first edition of that book, it says, we of Alcoholics Anonymous are 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, and to show other alcoholics how to recover is the primary purpose of this book. And so now what I'd like us to shift that thinking a little bit. We all have various issues in our lives that stand between us and accomplishing what we want to accomplish. We have things that stand between us and being in more positive association with more people more of the time. And once I got past the acute part of addiction, once I was no longer laboring under the active addiction or alcoholism part, I began to see the complete beauty of this series of actions, these series of behaviors, and these series of character attributes, which are taught in that program. And I realized a number of years ago that that would be entirely appropriate for all people, not just for those who suffer with addiction, and that we could, in fact, apply these principles to our lives, almost irrespective of who we are and how we live our lives. And so, as we go through this, I would remind you that I'm now going to, as best I can, I'm going to identify how we could use those program of recovery steps and apply them to a non-addicted individual. But I want to rely upon the precision. Remember, it said in that forward to the first edition, we of Alcoholics Anonymous are 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, and to show other alcoholics precisely, see, that was the key word, that's the word I want to show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book. And so now I would take those words, because I now speak to a crowd of people who are not seeking recovery, but seeking to be simply more happy more of the time in all aspects of life. Then this is a practical pattern of activities that I believe will provide a precise way to show other people who struggle in various aspects of their lives is the precise purpose of these steps, as we will now describe them. And in the forward to the second edition, written some number of years later, it describes the fact that 50% of the people who walked into the room of recovery got and stayed sober immediately. And so for those of you who today are searching for a way to quiet all of the background noise, you're searching for a way to have relationships become more positive and more constructive. You're searching for a way to be in less conflict. Less conflict results in more joy. You're seeking a way to have your life operate on a more level and evil playing field. We're going to apply those same steps. And it said in the forward of the second edition that 50% got sober. In our case, 50% identified the areas of needed change, were able to make them, and did so at once. And we're no longer burdened with those problems. And then it goes on to say that 25% more got and remained sober after a couple of relapses. And so for those who don't grasp this immediately, but who still fall into faulty behaviors, which is entirely likely, by the way, not just likely, but probable, and then I want you to know that 50% of people who hear this information, they're able to act upon it immediately, and the issues that were plaguing them in their lives are immediately put to rest and no longer plague their lives. And the remaining 25% more, after struggling and poking and prodding around a little bit, we're able to identify how this program of recovery or this pattern of living could solve those problems. And the other 25%, it says, had improvement. And so I have complete confidence as I share this information to you that these series of behaviors, principles, topics, concepts can in fact help you immediately. In fact, I think half the people who review this material and act upon it will not struggle the same way tomorrow that you struggled yesterday. Really, literally, it can change that fast. And that 25% more, after a little bit of poking and prodding around, can begin to have the relief and the joy they want, and that others will improve. And so let's walk through those steps. Step number one is what? Now, and remember again, I want to state one more time, I do not position myself as an expert in recovery. I'm not an addiction expert. I happen to be a human being who struggled mightily and lost the struggle with drugs and alcohol. That forced me into the rooms of recovery. There I learned a practical program of action that I believe is constructive and beneficial for people no matter who they are and what they're trying to accomplish in life. Step number one, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become manageable. Well, we're not talking about addiction. We admitted we were powerless over. And so what exactly are we powerless over? We're powerless over the way other people behave, aren't we? And is it not true that we so frequently allow the behaviors of others to impact the way that we experience life? True or false? Think back to the last moment of conflict in your life, whether it was a minor conflict, it might have occurred in the last 15 or 20 minutes, or a major conflict that occurred over the course of the last 6 or 8 years or 6 or 8 months. Is it not true that so much of that conflict had to do with our dissatisfaction with the way that someone else is behaving? Stop and ask yourself that question. Is it or is it not true that so much of the angst and the conflict and the turmoil in our lives is because we are unable to accept the way that someone else acts? Step number one is we admitted we were powerless over the way other people act. We are powerless over the way that other people respond to situations. We are powerless over someone else's adherence to basic life skills, telling the truth, being honest, being kind, being patient. We are powerless over almost everything, aren't we? It kind of comes down to this. I have power over the way that I act. I have power that I can apply to the way that I respond to situations. But if I were to receive right now a very, very nasty text from someone who is finding great fault with something I'm saying or doing, do I have power over that? No. And if I have no power over it, then is there any sense or logic whatsoever in allowing that circumstance over which I have no power to knock me off of my beam, to knock me off of my center line, to knock me off of my pattern of daily living activities, which results in me being more happy more of the time? No. And so contemplate and consider what are the most recent points of conflict in your life, whether it be a little one. We all remember the children's story of the princess and the pea, and this beautiful young princess is sleeping on 9 mattresses, and between the first and the second of the 9 there's a pea, and all she could feel was that little aggravation back there. Well, think back to either the little aggravation, the most recent little aggravation, and then ask yourself, did that aggravation come about as a result of, in fact, I'll ask myself, did my aggravation come about as a result of my unwillingness to accept the fact that I cannot change someone else's attitudes, demeanors, behaviors. And frankly, it's none of my business. And so step number one is we admitted we were powerless over. And if we continue to allow those things over which we have no power to negatively impact our attitude, our demeanor, and our behaviors, that results in our life becoming unmanageable. And so at various points along the way, we're given guidance as to how we might address that. But the first thing is to simply acknowledge that which is measured can be improved. Am I, in fact, trying to cause other people to behave in certain ways? Am I becoming frustrated when other people don't behave the way that I think they should? Am I frustrated when someone else does not respond to a situation the way that I think was right? Folks, I have to acknowledge my powerlessness over that. I must acknowledge that I have power only over the way one person acts and responds to a situation. That is me. And if I find myself laboring in that situation, then what shall I do? Well, really simple. We can simply cite. What I do is I simply recite over and over again the abbreviated version of the Serenity Prayer. And it's just this: God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change. That's an important thought, isn't it? God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. If I cannot change a person, place, thing, or situation, if I cannot change it, and there's something about it that causes me to be unhappy, if I don't accept it, then I will be less happy more of the time. The failure, my unwillingness to accept my lack of power over a given situation, circumstance, person, place, thing, will result in me being restless, irritable, discontent, agitated, and in all likelihood will bring to the forefront my own and other character flaws. That's step number one. We admitted we were powerless over. That's a big step for a lot of people, to admit that you don't have power over the way that your children act in certain situations. To acknowledge that we don't have power over even the people closest to us in our lives, our husbands, our wives, our children. To acknowledge that we have power only over ourselves, and then to exercise that power with proper due caution. It's time for our first commercial break, and so I'll turn it over to our sponsors.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Hey, we are back, and if I take that long talking about each step, we're going to be here all night, so I'll tighten it up a little bit. But it's an important one. Step number one, we admit we are powerless over people, places, things, situations, circumstances, everything except the way that we respond to them. We admit we are powerless over, and that our life had become unmanageable as a result. Step number two is that we came to believe that there was a power greater than ourselves that could restore us to sanity. You say, wait a minute, Randy, am I insane? Well, thinking that you can change the way that another person thinks, that's insane. Thinking that you can change the way another person acts, that's insane. Thinking that other people will respond the way that you respond to every situation, though their life experience is different, that's insane. Step number two, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Now, early in the program of recovery, I have to say that early in my participation in it, I was searching and poking and prodding around and trying to figure out what my understanding is of God or of a higher power. I didn't really have any clarity. But one thing that was clear to me is that there is a power greater than myself, and that power can restore me to sanity. How can I experience that? I can experience that here in a few days. I'll head off to San Diego, playing in a golf tournament with my son Blake that we play in each year. And while there, I will make it a point to go out to the Pacific. And when I go out to the Pacific, I will there witness an ocean that clearly and obviously has a greater power than I. There's nothing I could do to stop the waves from coming to shore. They're going to come to shore. There's nothing that I could do to stop the tide from going high and going low. There is a power greater than myself. It's very obvious. And by simply being in an environment where that power becomes evident, that all by itself begins to restore me to sanity, sitting in the presence of the power. Whether the power is simply the ocean and the waves, or any more highly evolved way of thinking now, at least for me, whether one is sitting in the presence of God as one understands God, simply being in that presence will tend to give me clarity about what I can change and what I cannot change. What can I change? Myself, the way that I respond to situations. What can I not change? You and the way that you respond to situations. I can provide guidance, but I cannot impose my will upon anyone else. That would be another example of insanity. And so step number two is that we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And I believe that if from this point forward, if the next time you find yourself feeling a bit of angst, you find yourself reacting not charitably to someone else's behavior, recognize what's occurring right now. I'm becoming agitated because of the way someone else is behaving. Me being agitated about something that I cannot control will cause me to become less happy. And so, is the situation I now contemplate in my control? The way someone else thinks, that's out of my control. The way someone else behaves, that's out of my control. The way that someone else reacts to me, communicates with me, fails to communicate with me, loves and cares for me or does not. Are those things in my control? No, those are not. Those are out of my control. And so if I allow anything which is out of my control to upset my serenity, my peace, my joy, my happiness, then that suggests that I have not yet effectively succeeded at accepting the fact that there is a power that is greater than I. And you know how I resolve that problem? Very simply, the next time you feel that aggravation, acknowledge it, measure it for what it is. I'm frustrated because of something someone else is doing. I'm frustrated about something over which I have no power. That is insane. And then just glance heavenward, join me as I do it all day long. And I say, God, a little help. I'm allowing myself to be frustrated about something over which I have no control. That is insane. Please restore me to sanity. And you know, that simple, as crazy as it sounds, it works. It works for me. It has for a long time. And so I'm perfectly happy recommending it to you. Step number 3 here, a great deal of caution, folks, a great deal of caution. This is not, this is neither a religious program, nor is it um, I mean, to some degree, I suppose it's a spiritual program because I believe that life is impossible to separate our physical presence from our spiritual presence. And so to some degree, yeah, it's spiritual because all of life is. But I'm certainly not trying to impose my standards upon anybody else, nor am I even suggesting that my standards are superior to anyone else's. They just happen to be my standards. But one thing that I have discovered, and this is for me, I have discovered that my life is hollow and empty and lonely if I don't have a relationship with God. If I've allowed life's situations and circumstances to push me away, if I've consciously made a decision to withdraw, whatever the circumstance is, if I don't have a relationship with God the way that I understand God, I will be lonely. That's the truth. And as I think back over my life, what are the things that cause me happiness? There are quite a few things. What is the one thing that would almost assure that I would not be happy? It's if I'm lonely. And loneliness is the result of being separated from God and man. I find it very, very difficult to be in strong relationship with other human beings if I'm not in strong relationship with God. Again, the way that I understand God. And imagine a bicycle wheel, and in the center of the bicycle wheel there is the hub, and that hub in my visualization is God, and all the spokes are heading towards God. I would never, ever, ever counsel or advise you to embrace my method of drawing nearer to God. I would counsel and embrace you to identify a method that works for you and be resolute in it. You see, it doesn't matter to me which spoke you're on, from which direction are you coming towards God. All that matters in this conversation, a conversation designed to do what? Make us more happy more of the time. All that matters for me to believe like that is occurring is that we each make a decision that we are going to draw nearer to God as we understand God, and that we are then going to establish a series of behaviors that would cause that to be the logical outcome. So step number 3 is made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. And for a lot of people that I know at the surface in the beginning, a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God, people who have maybe not darkened the door of a church for 20 years, people who were never taught at their parents' knee how to pray. We live in a very, very, very secular society on the surface. Notice I said on the surface. We live in a very secular society on the surface. As soon as we get beneath the surface, then the spiritual reality of humankind pops up. We live in a very secular society. And then we find out that one of our children has a devastating disease. And what do? We turn to God. We live in a very secular society, and we find out that our spouse has got a serious illness, a challenge facing him or her. And what do? We turn immediately and automatically to God. Bill Wilson said a statement, and I'll paraphrase. If ever I misquote, please understand that is my human frailty and my weakness. But he said that deep inside every man and woman, there is the basic conception of God. And that is what I find to be true, that deep inside every man and woman, there is the concept of God. And though we may have been taught or made a conscious decision to wander away, the very moment we come to a point of impasse, our husband or our wife is sick, our child is in trouble, we are in trouble ourselves. We find ourselves we've made mistakes, and it's so hard to recover from them. What do? All of us, we turn to God, don't we? Would it not be so wise to turn to God in times of joy and express gratitude instead of the never-ending foxhole prayers? God, get me out of this one, and I promise I'll always behave differently. What I find out is that the I'm in trouble, I'm going to turn to God. That's kind of common. Things are going fantastic, I should turn to God. That's very uncommon. Step number three, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood God. And there is an actual prayer that is associated with that. But you know what? The only prayer that you need to know is a little help, God. That's it. A little help, God. Just when I wake up in the morning and the very first thing I do is my eyes are clearing and I'm waking up, um, either figuratively or literally, I just glance up, and interiorly, I just say, a little help, God. That is all that it takes for me to be turning my will and my life over to the care of God, because as opposed to me deciding the way that I'm going to run my day, I'm asking for a little help in the very beginning. And over the course of the entire day, I imagine myself being at the playground and the basketball bounces away and there's five kids over there. And what do we say? A little help. Over the course of the day, multiple times. My life is, in fact, basically if I'm awake for 18 hours a day, my life is an 18-hour long prayer where I'm just uttering to myself silently, quietly. People don't know it. Little help, God, little help. Turning my will and my life over to the care of God so that I'm conducting myself in a way today that is highly unlikely to cause me to need to make apologies tomorrow. Conducting myself in a way today where I'm able to accept today's outcomes, whether or not they were the outcome that I anticipated when the day began. Step number one, we admitted we were powerless over people, places, things, circumstances. Step number two, and that our life would become unmanageable if we continue to act upon that powerlessness. Step number two is that we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. There either is a God or there is not. And if there is, then God can do everything. And so, therefore, yes, in fact, if we come to believe there is a God, then by definition, we believe that God can restore us to sanity. Insane sounds like a hard word, but I promise you this, it is complete, total, and absolute insanity for you, for me, and for any other human being to think that we can alter the behaviors of other people. Cannot. What we can do is work very, very diligently on altering our own behaviors. We should have let me take that back. I should have high expectations of myself, but only acceptance of others. That last little statement right there, you want to be more happy more of the time? You could almost cut out the other 51 weeks that are forthcoming. You want to be more happy more of the time? Simply this, folks. Have high expectations of yourself, higher expectations than anybody could possibly have, but have only acceptance of others. That, by the way, that little bit of that little bit of advice, that was the big kind. That was tens of millions of dollars worth of peace and serenity embodied in that little thought. Step number three, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Step number four, let me ask you all this question. Let's just stop and consider for a second what would be the downside of what we proposed up until now. What would be the downside, do you suppose, of admitting that you're powerless over the way that other people behave and no longer being burdened by trying to impose our will on another? And by the way, one of the great obstacles that people suffer with is it's hand in hand this desire to control outcomes, to control the behaviors of other people. If you want to be miserable, try to control other people's behaviors. If you want to be more happy more of the time, become accepting of those behaviors. Step number one, we admit we were powerless over and that our life had become unmanageable as a result of continuing to act in spite of that powerlessness. Step number two is we came to believe that there's a solution, that there is a God who can restore us to sanity. And step number three was made a decision to turn our lives over to the care of that God because we cannot do it by ourselves. And then step number four is that we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves, a candid self-appraisal. None of us are perfect, are there? None of us are perfect. I think of my known, the character flaws that I know that I have, but then I'm aware that you can see things in me that I cannot see in myself. You can probably already, as a result of this first 1.5 shows, my guess is that you can see faults and failings that I am unaware of. So you see, step number four is made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And this is a simple taking of an inventory, identifying both those things that we do well and things that we don't do so well. A moral inventory of myself. I will tell you that I can honestly state that I'm a kind and a generous and a loving person. That's the truth. I can also, so in an inventory, what do? We count up those attributes, the assets, but we also measure the liabilities if there's any spoiled inventory. Um, I'm kind, I'm generous, I'm loving. That's true. Well, on the other side, sometimes if things don't go my way, I get angry, and that can be a fault. Sometimes I expect of others, though I just told you if I want to be happy, I should never expect of another. Sometimes I expect of others behaviors that I want them to do, not behaviors they want to do, in conflict with what I've described up until now. We're going to continue step number 4, but it's now time for our second commercial break. Please, to my hosts.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Hey, we are back. And I'm glad that you're here with me. Step number 4 has made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. For those who choose to really apply these teachings, I would suggest that you simply go to Google and put in 4th step inventory PDF. And there you will get a worksheet where it will guide you and prompt you and help you have greater clarity of the various ways that you interact with people, which may in fact cause those people to back away. What is our objective of this entire program? It is to help you, it is to help me become more happy more of the time. I think that one of the things that is certain to do that is if we have more warm, fulfilling relationships. Therefore, if we're able to identify what is the pea in the mattress, what is it that you can see in me that I can't see in myself? What is the character attribute that I express which causes you to back away instead of coming towards me? When we conduct a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves, we then identify for ourselves, given a set of questions which we post on the file, and I suggest that you do this. If you really want to get better, and you want to do it quickly, and you want life to take on a different character right away, not over a long period of time, but right away, then I would suggest that you download and print out those PDFs that go along with each of the steps, recognizing again that this is about you applying the principles and the steps of recovery to ordinary life's experiences, not to addictive behavior or to challenges caused by addictive behavior. This is for me a pattern of living, a practical, pragmatic program of action that has as close to a 100% certainty of assuring you'll be more happy more of the time than anything else I could possibly recommend to you. So, at step number 4, we conduct a searching and fearless moral inventory, identifying our faults, our failings, candidly, taking an appraisal of them, also identifying our assets and our attributes. That is step number 4. Step number 5 is when we discuss it with somebody else, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. Now, why would we do that? We would do that simply because when we shine the light of day on our character flaws, that's when they begin to go away. To the extent that we hold them in secret and don't discuss them with another, the likelihood of them improving dramatically is very, very small. And in fact, once we become aware of a character flaw, if we do not take tangible action to neutralize it and replace it with a character attribute, that character flaw to which we had previously been unaware will begin making a more negative impact in our life. Having become aware of it, it now is damaging to our self-esteem if we don't do something about it. And anything that is damaging to our self-esteem would be directly contrary to the idea of being more happy more of the time. And so step number 5 is admitted to God, to ourselves, and another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. And this is simply when we meet with another person and someone who cares about you, someone who would not intentionally hurt you. It can be a spiritual leader. It can be a counselor, a friend, a coach. It can be a spouse. It need not be, but it could be. In some cases, that's a great idea, and in some cases, it's not. But admitted to God, to ourselves, another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs, this is about the most freeing thing that will ever happen. Just about the most freeing thing that will ever happen. Now, as we go through these entire 52 weeks, I will cite several experiences of my life as I was fighting my way into recovery. And I will describe along the way some of the positive effects of properly applying these steps and principles in my lives. And I'll also describe very candidly and openly some of the negative and difficult things that I experienced as a result of being unwilling to embrace fully some of these principles and the challenges and difficulties that resulted therein. But I would strongly suggest that you identify a person. And by the way, if you can't think of anyone that you'd like to have that conversation with, go to a Catholic priest. Go to a Catholic priest in the confessional. You never see their face. They don't have to see you. It doesn't have to be someone who knows you. It is about you uncovering any error that might be bothering you from the past. That's what it's about. And when we acknowledge it and we talk about it, we write it down. Step number 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory. Step number 5, admit it to God, to ourselves, and to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. We didn't say that we opened ourselves up to criticism. No, far from it. We simply acknowledged the truth. This is the fact. That which is measured can be improved. This is the character flaw identified as in my searching and fearless moral inventory. And as a result of acting upon that character flaw, this is the damage that I've caused to a relationship. And we disclose that to someone else. That then leads us into conversations of how we can restore and correct and restore and correct those relationships that have been damaged by our acting upon character flaws. And it also gives us the very best possibility to not slip back into those errors in the future. Do you want to be more happy more of the time? Do you really and truly, no kidding, want to be more happy more of the time? Then I will tell you that if you learn and live the 12 steps of recovery, and we're through 5 of them now, if you learn and live them, this will give you a greater logical probability, not just possibility, of becoming steadily and consistently more happy, irrespective of what the externals are that will come and go in our lives. We're out of control of those things. It's about how we react to them, and the way we react will be changed if we, in fact, embrace those steps. Step number 1, we admit we were powerless over, and that our life had become unmanageable as a result of that powerlessness, but refusing to acknowledge that. Step number 2, came to believe that there is a power greater than ourselves who can restore us to sanity. Step number 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to God as we understood God. Because why? Because left up to my own devices, I don't run my life very well. But when I run my life in concert with God, then it seems to go a lot better. Still not perfect. Why? Because I'm still a part of it. And as long as I'm a part of it, it won't be perfect, but it's much more perfect. Step number 4 is made a searching and fearless moral inventory. I'm talking about going all the way back to grade school and high school and all of the things. I mean, how many times, not simple things. What about the time that I snuck into a friend's driveway, into a friend's garage, and let all the air out of his tires because I was mad because he'd asked a girl for a date that I wanted to take to the prom? You know what? That is in a searching and fearless moral inventory. That's something I did that was wrong. I know it was wrong, and I've never approached that person to correct it. And so I carry that around. And so how many bags of rocks am I carrying around from the very start of my life? Errors that I have made that I've never disclosed, acknowledged even to myself, disclosed to another, and done anything about. Folks, if you're walking around carrying so much useless baggage loaded up, with every bad decision that's ever come down the pike. You're carrying around the weight and the burden of all these bad decisions, or decisions made in anger, or decisions made in lack of knowledge or ignorance, but they weren't the right one. We're carrying around so much useless baggage. We cannot pick up useful baggage. And say, in order to be more happy more of the time, we not only need to eradicate faulty behaviors, which are the result of acting out on character flaws, we need to replace them with esteeming behaviors, which are the logical outcome of identifying character flaws and then engaging in a practical pattern of action to eradicate them. And that's what you're learning about now. Step number 6 is what? Step number 6. Having, at step number 4, conducted a searching and fearless moral inventory, therefore identified what are those things in my character, which leads to things in my behaviors, which lead to me being apart from people instead of together. If I am together, great things can happen. If I am isolated and apart, then I become lonely and separated, and that's not going to work very well. And so now we identify those areas in step number 4. We talk about them in step number 5, and then at step number 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all of these defects of character. Now, you see, that's not an automatic. My defects of character for much of my life were defense mechanisms from a poor self-esteem. If you were to say to me, gosh, Randy, my observation of you is that you're just really selfish. You're just selfish. You're a stingy person. If you said that, it wouldn't tweak me. It wouldn't hurt me, because I'm just not. I mean, this is no part of me. That's not me. If I have it, if I have 1 basis point more than I need, I'll give it to you. And the fact is that many times in my life, I've given to you things that I couldn't afford to give, because I'm not selfish. It's just not my problem. I'm on the other side of that deck. And so if someone said, Randy, you're selfish, and you're stingy, you're miserly, well, no, it wouldn't hurt me. But if someone were to say, you know what, Randy, I have a little hard time with you because you're just a little arrogant, it doesn't feel good. That would hurt me. Why? Because arrogance is a self-defense mechanism to mask a poor self-esteem. I labored for decades in my life with a poor self-esteem, and that arrogance was a self-defense mechanism, was a survival technique to allow me to get by with what was going on inside of me. Entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. If I'm willing to drop my security blanket of arrogance, if I'm willing to do that, then I must be prepared to be engaging in a series of activities that cause that security blanket to no longer be needed. You see, I need to eradicate the poor self-esteem. I need to replace a poor self-esteem with a correct self-esteem. How do I do that? If I want to have a proper self-esteem, a positive self-esteem, then I should engage in esteeming behaviors day after day after day, day after day after day after day of steadily, consistently engaging in esteeming behaviors. Before too long, I will have a proper self-esteem. With a proper self-esteem, I will no longer require the self-defense mechanism of arrogance. I could not, at step number 6, I could not really acknowledge that I was ready to have God remove all of my defects of character until such time as I could get behind it, get to the root. I had to be addressing why that defective character was giving some relief in my life, or I would not have the courage to ask for its removal. Finally, that day came. How did that day came? That day came because I made a decision to engage in the program of recovery as completely and thoroughly and correctly as I possibly could, to do it 100%. And gradually over time, not immediately. Some things happen quickly. Some things happen slowly. They will always materialize them if we work for them. That's a line out of the book. Over time, gradually, the weight, I could feel myself still carrying the baggage, but the amount of weight in the baggage was going down, going down, going down, going down. And finally, one day, after many years of actively working in the recovery program, of actively being involved in recovery groups, finally, I had the courage to do step number 7. You see, step number 6 was we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. I couldn't be ready to have him remove certain defects until I removed what they were protecting. That had to happen. That required growth. It took time. It took a decision, and then a willingness to act upon that decision. Then step number 7 was at step 6, having become entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Then at step number 7, we humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings. Humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. And I will cite here for you the 7-step prayer, and that will then lead us directly into our next commercial break. And it goes like this: having acknowledged that those character defects are no longer serving me well, having admitted them, acknowledged them to another person, became ready to have God remove them, then the 7-step prayer goes like this: My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, the good and the bad. And I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness with you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. May I do your will always. Amen. Now, is there a single thing bad that could happen in your life because you began praying that prayer, because you were ready to pray that prayer, you wanted to, and then lived your life in accordance with it? You see, only good things happen. Step 1 leads to 2, leads to 3, leads to 4. It is time for a commercial break. Let's go do it.
Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like, it was almost instant. Like, I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Hey, we are back. Thank you for being here. Let me just ask you each a question, and let's just reflect on that 7-step prayer one more time. And let me ask you if a single bad thing could happen in your life because you adopted this. My Creator, God, my Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, the good and the bad. And I pray that you now remove from me every single defective character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. May I do your will always. Could anything bad happen as a result of living our lives in accordance with that? See, I think not. That is why I describe this as a pattern of living that I think would be appropriate for all people, not just for those people who, this might surprise the way that I say this now, who are blessed to have been forced into the rooms of recovery. You see, I consider one of the greatest gifts God gave to me was the requirement that I get in recovery. Because what if I was just sober? What if I didn't need recovery? I didn't have a drug and alcohol problem. Then I would never have been taught the steps that have resulted in me being more happy more of the time. You see, I walked into Alcoholics Anonymous because I thought I needed to get sober. I did, but that's not what I really needed. What I really needed was to have a pattern of living that would allow me to stop offending other people. I needed a pattern of living that would allow me to see things through other people's eyes. Now, something as simple, if you want another one, you want to change your life today, change it today, then start praying the prayer of St. Anthony every day. Stop trying to cause other people to understand your plight in life. Stop trying to cause other people to see all of your burdens. Instead of asking others to understand the challenges in your life, you become the one who's understanding of challenges in other people's lives. Stop asking and contemplating and demanding that other people understand you. You become the one that understands others. You provide the solace to others instead of asking others to provide solace to you. That simple bit of guidance also. You want to be more happy more of the time? That can change it literally overnight. Well, step number 7 is not just we express the willingness at step 6 to drop the character defects that we've used as defense mechanisms. That leads us to humbly asking God to facilitate that process in step number 7. And then at step number 8, remember we made an inventory back at step number 4, and we talked about the various things going clear back to whatever, going back to the day, and this again, a little bit of truth, the day that I shot a marble through a slingshot when I was in 3rd grade through a neighbor's window and never admitted it. Still today to this second. I hadn't thought of it for 55 years until right now. The truth is, next time I go to Rexburg, Idaho, I will track down that family and I will describe the fact that when I was 9 or 10 years old, I shot a marble through a window. I was specifically asked if I did it, and I said no. Didn't tell the truth. Okay. So at step number 8, it is to reflect upon that group of people that we had harmed, and then we become willing to make amends to them all. We become willing to make amends to all of them. And making an amends, that doesn't just mean saying you're sorry. Making an amends means, okay, that glass cost money, didn't it? I owe you something to repair it, to put it back to where it was before my error. That's what it means to make an amends. And so step number 8 is to make a list of these people with whom we need to have a conversation and talk about those various issues. And again, I just choose to be completely and totally self-disclosing and revealing. You can tell that as we go through these 52 weeks, I'll talk about some more of those situations. But, there are a group of promises also. And though, as you can probably tell, I know the book quite well, I'm going to actually read the promises because I'd like you to know what's in store for you if you are in fact willing, if you're willing, that's going to be the key. If you are willing to embrace a practical pattern of living, which will result in you having a greater awareness of who you are and who you are not. And it will result in you understanding with complete clarity the way that your behaviors impact other people for good and for bad. And you'll have clarity about what the required changes are in order for your interactions with other people to become almost universally beneficial and edifying for them. But let's read what the payoff is. It says here, if we are painstaking about this phase of our development. What is the phase of development I'm referring to? We have now done a searching and fearless moral inventory at step number 5. We have talked with another person about it, or step number 4, we did the moral inventory. At step 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. At step 6, we became entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. At step 7, kind of a scary one, God, take away my safety net. Take away the character defects that I've been using to be okay. Take them away. That demands that I get back behind it and that I replace character flaws with character attributes. At step number 8, we reflect again upon that inventory we took at step number 4. We make a list of all the people who our actions have negatively impacted over the course of our lives, and there are some for all of us. And then we make direct amends. That means conversation, acknowledging error, correcting. And then you see that's step 9. And when it says, if we are painstaking about this phase of our development, that's the part we're talking about. When we're going and meeting with people and explaining that I made this mistake earlier in my life. Maybe earlier was yesterday, by the way. It's not always about years ago. Sometimes it's right now. But I made errors, and I don't want this uncomfortable thing between us to persist. I want to acknowledge my error and make it right. And then it says, if we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we're halfway through. You got 10 people on that list that you need to talk to before you're halfway through. It says before you get to 5, you're going to be amazed. We're going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. Is that attractive to you? We're going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We'll not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. Wow, that's a big thing, I think. We'll comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. Isn't that about the biggest gift? And we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we'll see how our experiences can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us, and we will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Wow, Those are some promises, aren't they? And I want you to know, as one who's lived it, that they have come true in my life. They absolutely have come true in my life. I am among the happiest people you're going to interact with. The name of this program, More Happy, More of the Time, Lessons in Life and Leadership. And as I described in the very first program, I simply teach you what I was taught by another. I don't think I'm all that. I'm about as faulted and flawed a human as you're going to bump into. But I have sought out coaches and mentors, and I've sought out mechanisms that would make the only logical outcome of the way I live my life, the only logical outcome is being more happy more of the time. Step number 9 is to make direct amends wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or other people. And there's some judgment that needs to be used sometime and some discretion in how and when we make these amends. And step 10 is continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admit it. And the fact is that it's a very, very unusual day for me to go through it all day long and not have had some moment of discomfort or discord sometime during the day. That is just the truth. And acknowledging the error in the day in which the error was made and rectifying it in that same day has a lot to do with being more happy more of the time. We're down to our last minute, folks, and so I can't do justice to steps number 11 and 12. I'll simply tell you what they are. Step number 11 is that we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. Now, you see, that kind of takes away the possibility of the foxhole prayer. God, get me out of this one. Get me out of this one, God, and I'll behave differently next time. Now, praying only for knowledge of God's will for us and the power to carry that out. Now, they do throw us a safety net. They throw us a bone because they say we can pray for ourselves so long as what we're praying for would benefit other people. But step number 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. You want to be more happy more of the time? Step 11 just told you how. Just told you. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. That's it, folks. And then step number 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. I can tell you right now, you will have a spiritual awakening if you go through these steps and do it correctly and with purpose. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics. We tried to carry this message to all people of goodwill and intent who want more, who are willing to learn more so they can become more, so they can get more. Step number 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and practice these principles in all of our affairs. Folks, my time is completely spent. I am hoping so much that the content that has been delivered tonight, I will tell you, is of absolutely immeasurable worth in my world. I will state it is my opinion that minus living and adhering to those 12 steps, not only would I not be more happy more of the time, I would either be incarcerated or no longer occupying this planet. That's the truth, one of those two things. This has, for me, been not just a lifeline, but a pattern of living which has benefited my entire existence. Our time is spent. I want you to know you can do this. There's an absolute 100% certainty. When I say do this, do what? You can be more happy more of the time. You can live life on your terms. See you next week. I'll get back to my host.
This has been More Happy More of the Time with your host, Randy Schrader. Tune in next time and allow yourself to believe that you do in fact have the raw ingredients required for myriad successes in many aspects of life and become the catalyst ingredient to those successes. So let's bake that cake. Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network, powered by B2 Studios.